Hey y'all, Walt here with a video overview of Act 1 of the tragedy of Julius Caesar. Let's go. So, we're going to talk about key characters here. Now, Brutus and Cassius kind of go together. They are fellow politicians, and Cassius kind of works to get Brutus involved in the conspiracy against Caesar. Brutus is our protagonist, or I guess he's one of the main characters. He's the most important character. It's his story arc that Shakespeare wants us to focus on. His wife is Portia. Cassius doesn't have a wife in the play. Caesar, obviously, is very important to the play. It's about him, the tragedy of Julius Caesar. Caesar was a real live person who was an ambitious military leader and politician and the most powerful man in Rome. And that's what gets him killed. We'll look at themes of loyalty, ambition, and that kind of stuff. His wife is Calpurnia. And then we've got Mark Antony, who is a friend of Caesar. He is, and it says eloquent orator here. His rhetorical skills are on display in Act 3. We'll get there. But he is a friend of Caesar. He's loyal to Caesar. And after Caesar's death, he becomes one of the ruling members of the triumvirate, the group of three men that control Rome after Caesar's death. So these are the five characters that we are going to focus on in our discussion. Just remember that Brutus is our protagonist. He is the tragic hero of the play. So here we go. So you got 5 questions for your selection quick check. This is on one of the handouts we have online and I gave out in class. So this is what we're going to focus on as we go through Act 1, and I'll go over these answers, but also just kind of some of the bigger themes and ideas and point out some key lines in the play. So here we go. All right, Flavius and Morales, we're introduced to them right off the bat, and they are upset because the Commodores are out in the streets celebrating Caesar's triumph. Now, if you look at your text notes where it says line 31 here, triumph doesn't just mean victory. It's a specific type of celebration. And in this case, it's celebrating Caesar's defeat of the 2 sons of Pompey the Great, his former rival. So Caesar was the military leader of Rome, and he would go out into other countries. He would capture other territories for Rome and bring back to Rome money and stuff from those captured territories to benefit the people of Rome. Morales here is upset when he says, "Wherefore rejoice? What conquest brings he home? What tributaries follow him to Rome?" What he's pointing out is that this isn't a victory that Caesar went out and did something awesome and captured another country for us. He's saying basically like this is different. Caesar didn't do anything special. He just overthrew Pompey. And Pompey was their former ruler. And he points out here that these people used to be fans of Pompey. They used to sit on top of, they used to like look outside the windows, sit on top of the roofs, and wait to see Pompey just pass in the streets because they loved him so much. So he was a very popular politician, and Caesar overthrew the government, and now people love Caesar. So I guess in class we talked about how they would be kind of what do you call it? Bandwagon fans. And I've got some notes here. This kind of shows that there's a disconnect between some of the ruling class members like Flavius and Morales, who are wealthy politicians, and the common people in Roman society. And so you got to look at this in terms of political loyalty. The ruling class here, Flavius and Morales, they were loyal to Pompey, where the people now are loyal to Caesar. All right, so the soothsayer. Earlier in this scene, we see Caesar talk to Calpurnia and Antony. He says basically to Antony, hey, if you are running this race during this specific festival and you touch my wife as you pass her by, she will be able to bear children for me. She'll lift this sterile curse, I think is what he said. So we kind of get into this concept of superstitions. And in class, we talked about certain superstitions that we believe we regularly do. One of them that we talked about that I think we all probably do or say, it's very normal, is knock on wood. We know that knocking on wood after we say something does no effect on the events in the world around us, and yet we do it all the time. So we talked about in class how Caesar reacts favorably to superstitions that could benefit him. But in this case, the soothsayer warns him and says, beware the Ides of March. And what he's literally saying is, you're going to die on the Ides of March. Like this is bad. Like, watch out. And Caesar, instead of taking him seriously, says, he is a dreamer. Let us leave him pass. So in class, we talked about how this kind of showcases you could say arrogance. Caesar is an arrogant person, but he's also a very powerful person. He has reason to believe that he will be successful and that he is above sort of the fate of the common people. So he doesn't trust or believe in this superstition because it kind of goes against him. All right. Why is Cassius upset? Number 3. So Cassius goes on like a huge rant about Caesar. So Cassius and Brutus are talking, and Cassius tells a couple stories. One story he tells about Caesar is about how Caesar and he had a literal like swimming race. They stood on the shore, and Cassius was like, "Oh, I bet I can beat you to that rocky outcropping out there." And they swam, and Caesar nearly drowned, and Cassius had to save him. He tells another story about how Caesar became very sick at one point, and Cassius watched him suffer and nearly die, and Cassius had to like nurse him back to health. And so he's upset because he perceives Caesar as basically inferior. He's jealous of Caesar. He doesn't think Caesar is worth all the power and fame that he has. And this is a key passage right here. We talked about this in class, line 139. Well, here he compares, so he says, he doth bestride the narrow world like a colossus. He's referring to Caesar there. And if you remember, we read the poem, The New Colossus by Emma Lazarus, in which she compared the Statue of Liberty to the Greek Colossus of Rhodes. That's what he's talking about here. This giant statue representing a Greek god that stood on with one foot on either side of the opening of a waterway. And so he's basically saying Caesar thinks he's so important that anyone that wants to come into Rome or pass through Rome walks underneath him. And so he says here, men at some time are masters of their fates. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves that we are underlings. So in Greek and Roman tradition, you had the fates. You had the concept of fate, and we would maybe say destiny. This idea that what is happening for a reason, and there are only certain things in life that you can control. And Cassius here is saying that if we are underlings, if we are beneath Caesar, it's not because of the position of the stars the day we were born. It's not because of factors outside of our control. It's under our control. We determine our fate in relation to our position against Caesar. And he kind of lays out some things here. Brutus and Caesar, what should be in that Caesar? Why should that name be sounded more than yours? Write them together. Yours is as fair a name. Sound them, it doth become the mouth as well. Weigh them, that it is as heavy. Conjure with them. Brutus will start a spirit as soon as Caesar. Basically, and we talked about this in class a little bit. Think of, like, let's say you want to be an author or a musician or an athlete. Like, think of that person who is the most powerful example of that, or a powerful example of that. What Cassius would say to you is, your name is just as important as their name. It rolls off the tongue just as easily. It's like that phrase, we all, everyone puts on their pants the same way. No matter how important you are or big you get in life, he's kind of saying like, the only reason you're not like that person, or the only reason that person is better than you, air quotes, is because you're letting it happen. Like you got to change. You can change your fate. That was kind of a rant on my part, I guess. Anyways, here we go. So that was number 3. Cassius is upset. He's jealous of Caesar, and he doesn't think Caesar should be king. Okay, 4 and 5. This has to do with what Caesar refuses 3 times. Now, the specific answer is a crown. And we talked about in class the specific nature of the refusal. He refuses the crown 3 times. And Shakespeare would include that as a reference or an allusion to the biblical story of Peter denying the crown 3 times. Well, not denying the crown, but denying Jesus 3 times. And he would do that because, with Shakespeare, with Poe, with these, authors that we read in high school, they would reference the Bible or make these little kind of allusions to biblical stories because that's how they could connect to their audience. They could count on, maybe their audience hasn't read a whole lot of books, but they're familiar with the Bible or the Bible stories. So it's that's why 3, I think, is the number here. Now, this is important to note. Mark Antony is trying to give Caesar a crown, but he refuses it. And the people, each time he refuses it, the people hoot and holler. They want him to take that crown. And this kind of shows the political climate they're in. Who really is giving Caesar the power here? Caesar doesn't want to take power from the politicians. He knows that if the people grant him the power, That's better. Now, that obviously doesn't work out for him. But you can look at it this way. Maybe Caesar here is being humble. Maybe he's saying, "Oh no, surely I couldn't be your king. I couldn't be your ruler." But I think he's really playing the crowd. He's playing it up, making it seem like he doesn't want the job, but he'll take it if he has to, kind of thing. Okay. Casca here reacts. I think this is one of the questions. He's a little different. So the foreigners, the commoners, think this is the best thing ever. They want Caesar to have the crown, and they love him all the more for kind of fainting and pretending like he doesn't want it. Casca just realized, he's very sarcastic about the whole thing. He thinks it's all for show. He's very cynical about it. He doesn't trust that Caesar is actually behaving honestly here. Okay, now the reading strategy is on the other side of the handout, and it's about making inferences about the character. And I want you to kind of work on this on your own based on this discussion. There are more than 5 characters, but I want you to focus on these 5. The other ones are minor characters that I'm not really concerned about for our time with this play. But I want to know, what can you say about Caesar, Antony, Brutus, Cassius, and Calpurnia based upon what they do and say in Act 1? Now let's talk about, here we go, Caesar. So here's a key passage. Would he were fatter, but I fear him not. Yet if my name were liable to fear, I do not know the man I should avoid so soon as that spare Cassius. This is key. If my name were liable to fear. In this passage, he's saying basically he doesn't trust Cassius because Cassius is hungry. Not literally hungry, but he's hungry for power. So Caesar doesn't trust him. So here are some options for you. Do you think he's superstitious? Do you think he's arrogant, confident, a good ruler? What's your support for that? All right, Antony. Do you think he's a loyal friend or colleague? Look at this. So Caesar says, Antonio. Caesar, let me have men about me that are fat, sleek-headed. Oh, yeah, excuse me. This is something different. This goes to the naive. Yeah, forgive me. So Antony here says, fear him not, Caesar. He's not dangerous. He's a noble Roman and well given. Antony right here is telling Caesar not to worry about Cassius. And we'll see later that was a mistake. Now, with the loyal friend or colleague, I was getting back to the beginning of the play where Antony says a line like, whatever Caesar says to do is done or something like that. So Antony basically puts himself down on Caesar's side, and he's loyal to Caesar, even though he appears maybe to be a little naive or too trusting of others. All right. We've got Brutus. This is a key passage right here. So Brutus here basically says, I fear the people choose Caesar for their king. And, Cassius kind of knows, okay, man, this is a chance for me to win Brutus over. I think you must, I think you would not have it so. And Brutus says, I would not, Cassius, yet I love him well. So he doesn't want Brutus does not want Caesar to be king, but he admits right here that he loves him. They are friends, they're colleagues. So it's kind of a weird thing. Have you ever been in a position where you love and respect someone, but you don't want them to succeed in some way? I don't know. It's a strange position to be in. But Brutus is there because he holds himself to be noble and honorable, and he wants what's best for Rome. So he says here at the end, if it ought be toward the general good, set honor in one eye and death in the other, and I will look on both indifferently. For let the gods so speed me as I love the name of honor more than I fear death. So ought toward the general good. Basically, he's saying if something benefits the people, the population of Rome, if something benefits my countrymen, I would rather die than dishonor them. So he is focused on nobility and honor and doing the right thing. And so what that does is it puts him in conflict with Caesar. He doesn't think Caesar being king is the right thing for Rome. So even though Caesar is his good friend, he's going to work against him. All right, Cassius. This goes back to the fault in our stars thing again. Cassius has all kinds of issues. I don't know if he's just jealous. I don't think he's hungry for power because he doesn't want to rule. He actually supports Brutus. Cassius isn't trying to kill Caesar to take over Rome himself. He wants Brutus to be king. I think Cassius I think at one point Caesar says, he's never at ease around someone who's greater than he is. So Cassius really just can't stand the fact that Caesar is so well loved and successful, and he just wants to bring him down. All right, Calpurnia. We don't get a whole lot of Calpurnia in Act 1. She'll get more lines in Acts 2 and 3. But basically, she's a loyal wife, and she wants what's best for her husband. So right here, she's willing to kind of go along with this superstitious kind of thing in order to make her husband feel better, because she wants to be able to give him an heir so that his legacy can continue. Now, at the very end of that drawing conclusions thing, it asks specifically about what Cassius sees. Now, this is at the end of the act, and it kind of goes back to the superstitious nature of people. So this is a list of things that Cassius saw while he was out that like freaked him out. A common slave held up his left hand, which did flame and burn like 20 torches joined, and yet his hand, not sensible of fire, remained on. So he saw a slave walking around with his hand on fire. He saw he saw a lion that just like walked by and just like glanced at him and kept going. He saw a bunch of ghastly women who swore they saw men all in fire walk up and down the streets. A bird of night did sit even at noonday upon the marketplace. So he saw an owl out in the daytime. And this line is key. When these prodigies do so conjointly meet, let not men say these are the reasons they are natural, for I believe they are portentous things under the climate that they point upon. So he's saying basically, these weird things are happening because someone or something isn't happy with what's going on right here, right now. Specifically, Caesar's going to become king. So he sees these as bad omens, as signs that what's happening now is bad. Now, Cicero kind of sets him straight. Indeed, it is a strange disposed time. Like, yeah, times are weird, but men may construe things after their fashion, clean from the purpose of the things themselves. So he's basically saying, like, yeah, things are weird right now, but these could all just be coincidences. Like, people read too much into things like this based upon what they're going through. Then he asks, comes Caesar to the Capitol tomorrow, which does foreshadow Caesar trying to take over Rome. So that's kind of what we're getting at here is, Casca insinuates that the gods must be unhappy with what's going on because all these weird things start happening. All right, that's Act 1. Hope this helps you get your handout filled out, get that completed and turned in to me, and tomorrow we will start on Act 2. Have a good one, guys.